Welcome to Designing Digital by SPINX. My name is Lisa, and I am here today with Valerie. How's it going, Valerie?
Hey, Lisa. Hey, everybody. Going very well. Excited for part 3. More even nittier and grittier.
We are going deep with this stuff, which is fun, and hopefully it's interesting and informative for everybody listening.
Yes.
But this is really what we do day in and day out. And I don't know, it's fun to kind of take a step back and talk about it together. And then also kind of just look at everything and rehash it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but just rehash it and kind of look at it from like a higher level. I think sometimes with projects, we get so involved in like the project details itself, taking this half a step back and looking at things maybe more specific, in this case, to law firm websites. It's just kind of fun to talk about and notice all the different patterns and things that we do that are so specific to law firm marketing and law firm websites themselves. I guess I'll take a half a step back and talk a little bit about who we are. So Valerie and I both work at a digital agency named SPINX Digital, and it's located in sunny downtown Los Angeles. And we work with clients in all industries. Today, and for the past 2 podcast episodes, we've really been honing in and talking about the law firms that we have had the pleasure to work with. But we work with companies of all sizes and in all industries. So not just companies in the legal space, but in healthcare, entertainment, retail, manufacturing, pretty much you name it. We have probably worked with a business that is within that industry. And it really just gives us a great feel for how to apply marketing strategies that are not just industry specific, but when it comes to marketing, there's so many things that can be broadly applied as far as how to craft your call to actions or your CTAs, things like how to direct attention on a website, how to get people to stay on web pages longer, so on and so forth. There's so many things that can be applied across various industries. But then there are also super specific things, which we're kind of talking about how they relate to law firm websites in these podcast episodes. So Valerie, can you tell everybody listening a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Lisa. So my name's Valerie, and here at SPINX, I am both an account executive, so helping speak with new clients, figure out what their goals are, and begin kind of crafting a strategy for the design of their website. Then I also am a senior project manager here at SPINX, which means that once the project kicks off with a new client, I'll also, help to manage communications between our teams, the client's team, our internal teams, and then really kind of move the project along from milestone to milestone and take the project over the finish line. So two very different hats, but they come together very well. It's, I always feel like I have such a fun role because I really get to kind of be there from the very beginning stages of kind of ideation all the way through launch and really seeing it come together and brought to life.
Yeah, and it is fun too to do that, isn't it?
It is. It's really fun, and my clients are so special to me. I take their projects very seriously because that beginning stage of figuring out what we're going to do, what they really want, and what their target audience needs. It's a collaborative process with my clients. So that's how it starts. And so, getting it all the way to the launch day where we go live with the new site is just so exciting. And it's, it's a really collaborative process. It feels very much like a partnership. So, starting from the beginning and taking it all the way to the end is exciting. And, it's an honor, really.
Absolutely.
And it's fun. It's really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of fun and honor. We always, do a little internal celebration when we launch things, because we recognize
Absolutely.
just how much work goes in it on the client side,
Yeah.
on, from the project management account executive side into the design, the UX strategy, the development, the QA, setting up the server. Like, there's just so many pieces that go into a web design project specifically. And when we get to that launch phase, it just feels so good.
It does. It's so exciting.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for telling everyone who's listening a little bit more about what you do here at SPINX. And I must say, too, Valerie is just awesome at what she does. Anybody who gets the honor to talk to her, work with her, is just in for such a great experience. She's fun. She keeps things focused and just really, brings an awesome oversight to all the projects that she is a part of. And then a little bit
Thanks,
about
Lisa.
myself. So I'm the Director of Creative and Strategy here at SPINX Digital. And that just means I oversee the production side of the web design projects and any other marketing projects that come into our agency. And I oversee everything from kind of the strategy that was outlined during that initial conversation Valerie was talking about. And if we need to do a deeper discovery, overseeing that as well. So this can come in the form of user interviews, usability testing, competitive audits. There are just so many different activities that we can do depending on the project goals and needs. And I oversee all of that side of things and really drive the UX strategy, put together the site architecture, wireframes, really hone in on what the ideal site layout will be before we even get to the design phase. And then once we're in the design phase, I just oversee from the design direction and make sure that everything is designed with intentionality. It meets the goals that have been stated for the project. We are keeping the user or customer journey focused and giving them the information that they need when they need it, and helping them to take the next step in that journey, whatever that might be. So I don't want to keep going with the intro. I feel like we could just keep talking and talking about what we do.
Yeah. Dive into the actual, like, the details in this specific case. So I know, Lisa, you oversee the kind of high level, make sure we are all keeping our eye on the ball in terms of what the goals for the site are, who the target audiences are. And in the last podcast, we discussed some of the sections of the site. I'd love to hear in even more detail some of what goes into the different elements that make up what we decide to include in these different sections of the site. We can jump right into details.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is kind of part 3 of our, I'm calling it a mini series now on law firm websites specifically. So if you didn't catch the first 2 episodes, definitely jump back and give those a listen, where Valerie and I talk a lot about target audience, overall goals of the website, and we dive into the most important sections on the website, which is backed up by some pretty shocking numbers and stats there. So now the first thing that I want to kind of dive into with this one is talking a little bit about the power of social proof and exactly what that is, how that can be leveraged across law firm websites, different ways that we've seen that take shape across the website, and really just talking about social proof. What is that? That is just showing that other people trust you. They trust your firm, whether that is through a positive review or testimonial, or maybe it is an award or an accolade that your firm won. So something that is impressive and speaks to either your area of expertise or maybe something else that's really important to your firm. So maybe it's top 100 law firm within a specific practice or practice area, or maybe it's that you're one of the most diverse firms. There's different accolades or recognitions that are important to different firms that we worked with in the past. That's another way that social proof can really be leveraged, is by talking about those things. There are also another way to do that is by leveraging the names and or logos of clients. Now that can get a little bit sticky because you do have to get permission before you use those things on the site, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky to do. But if you are able to use the direct name, or if you get the permission to use the logo of some of your clients, that can really show exactly who you worked with, especially if it is a recognizable brand. There are ways also, if you're not able to use the exact logo or name of a client, that you can kind of get around it by maybe alluding to who you've worked with, talking about the company in a way where people kind of infer who it is.
Right.
But and that's just another way that you can really leverage the power of showing, hey, these people have worked with us before and they trust us. And by inference, when people see that, they feel like they can trust you as well. Another way to do this is by talking about your victories and using kind of numbers of, like, really big numbers of settlements that you may have won for a client, or something, maybe it wasn't a large settlement, but there was still a really impressive result. So talking about those victories and sharing the details and the information around that can also bolster you in the eyes of any visitors who are coming to the site to check you out.
Absolutely. That could be anything from, so like you said, settlements won, actual dollar figures. This could also be the number of trials that your firm's taken on, percentage of trials won, things like that can be something to it's really, it's a place to sort of brag, you know, all, when you think about all of the work, all of the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into our clients' firms and growing their firm, along the way, there's been so much success, and this is your chance to really show that off. It's funny because I think we sort of get lost in the work where, you know, our clients are hard workers. They all are. If they have one thing in common, they're workaholics and they should be proud of their accomplishments. It's true. Everybody I talk to, they are focused on their work. They're focused on their clients. They're focused on being effective. And so the website design process is an awesome moment to kind of step back and look at what has been accomplished, and really showing that off and being proud of it. That's what clients want to see. That's what, you know, their potential clients and the audiences that are going to come to the site, that is what they want to see. That's what they're looking for. And it's an opportunity to, I know brag is kind of a dirty word, but it's about really being proud and showing off, you know, what those accomplishments have been over the years.
Exactly. And I think brag can have a negative
right.
sometimes, but honestly, like you said, all of our clients work incredibly hard for these results, and the results are a direct representation of how they have been able to help their clients. Exactly. So yeah, it's one of those things where if they've done it, show it off. And whether it is, like you mentioned a couple of examples, you could talk about maybe the total amount won for all of your clients. Maybe that's, you know, in the millions, billions. You can talk about the total number of clients you represented. That can be a super impressive stat as well, especially I know a lot of our more consumer facing law firms like to leverage this number because they end up helping millions of people with what they do. You can talk about how many attorneys and staff members you have. You can talk about maybe how many offices you have. It varies a little bit from law firm to law firm as to what they want to emphasize. And that really ties into their culture, their identity, who they see themselves as. And that kind of guides us as well when we are laying things out and deciding which of these stats we want to emphasize in the design for them. We want to align with their goals. So if someone is wanting to show that they have a large global presence. We will want to call out, how many countries they're in, how many offices they have, maybe even how many languages their attorneys speak, so that is conveyed through those numbers and stats. On the flip side of that, if someone only has one office, but they are still able to serve clients throughout the entire country, we will de-emphasize the number of offices that they have, but we will still find ways to emphasize that they have that national reach and they have the ability to work with anyone around the country, no matter where they're located. So there's just so much that can be done with this social proof, and it is a super powerful way to build up that credibility and that trust in the eyes of visitors coming to the site and trying to validate your firm. I think this kind of goes into the next thing as well, which is talking about the impact of design language. So when I say design language, I'm really talking about how a site looks, how it feels, how the combination of colors, typography, imagery can evoke these kind of powerful feelings within someone when they visit the site. On the flip side of that, there are a lot of clients as well that come to us who don't like the feelings that are evoked because they're sometimes negative feelings if the site might be a little bit outdated or isn't well organized, and they don't feel like it represents them well. But the impact of design language really can take those words that you want people to think about your firm and use leverage all these design elements to make people who land on the site feel that. So we talked about this a little bit in the first episode we did, Valerie, but one of my favorite questions that we ask people is the adjective question. So we ask them to tell us what 5 adjectives would best be used to describe their firm. And then we take those adjectives and we help use those adjectives to guide the overall look and the feel of an overall design. So if someone says, we are bold, we are aggressive, we win. Things like that. We will want to use kind of a bolder, stronger color palette. We will want to use more substantial, thicker fonts. We will want to make sure that things feel maybe a little bit more in your face without being turn-offish. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Powerful, but not, we don't want to turn people away or turn people off. It's just conveying power and strength.
Power, strength, and confidence that they can handle any cases that come their way, really. On the flip side of that, if someone says, we have a really friendly culture. We are collaborative. We work together. People come to work energized. That's going to lead us to lean on a very different color palette, something that feels more upbeat, more cohesive in a sense. Something we'll lean into typography that feels probably a little friendlier, a little easier, definitely easier to read. Something that really embodies those. Yeah, a little bit warmer. Yeah, we'd probably lean the color palette warmer as opposed to like maybe a cooler, darker palette. We would want to lean into the warmer, maybe lighter, brighter colors as well. But it's just, I don't know, it's so fun because when we get to this part of the project where we are we're basically embodying these words through design. I just love this part. It's so much fun for me to see how we can use with the right combination of imagery, fonts, colors across the site. You can so intentionally design something that feels and really embodies those words and in a sense brings the brand to life on the site.
Exactly. It's such a fun process. It's also, so the irony, of course, of, speaking about this in a podcast is the fact that it is it's really difficult to articulate. It is about a feeling. It is about tone. And we are, basically almost translating, I would say, those adjectives that we get, the research that we do, the data at our fingertips, and translating it into this, as you said, design language or visual language. And it is difficult to articulate it. It's very subjective. It is very abstract. And so we can speak to kind of the different elements that go into it. At the end of the day, it really is about a feeling and that impact that the visual language has on the user and on our client, the firm. Does it really convey who they are? And does that translate for the audience or audiences? And again, it's a feeling. So there's best practices, which we're going to talk about, and there are some standards. There are some kind of guidelines to this that are more defined. And then on the other hand, this is an art. At the end of the day, it is a creative endeavor as well. And so it's really kind of finding the bridge between those two, walking that line.
Absolutely.
I agree. It is like the most fun part of this. It is just, it's a blast.
It is. And so one of the ways we can really build up that professional feel across the site is by using consistency in design language. So when you're designing things out, you want to make sure that there is a consistent feeling that carries with you no matter what page of the site you are on. So using things like the same size font in both titles and then paragraphs across every page of the site, using the same button styles across the entire site, using the same button colors across the entire site, and really building out a system where you're using these consistent elements when it comes to imagery, using the same style of imagery across the site. So you're not using maybe an illustrated graphic on one page, but you're using a very realistic people-focused image on another page. But you're finding imagery that works and has that a consistent feel, and you're using it across the entire site. So consistency is definitely a huge part of design language and can make a really big positive or negative impact. So if you have consistency, it makes a huge positive impact on the overall experience. And unconsciously, people tend to, like studies have been done within the user experience side of things, but people have been found to, by default, trust brands who have a consistent feel. And then on the flip side of that, if there's not the consistency, maybe you're using inconsistent font sizing, you're using different styles of buttons. Maybe one button has a rounded corner, one button has square corners. Maybe they're different colors, different sizes. If you're not having that consistency, the experience feels disjointed. And subconsciously, again, a lot of this stuff happens and we don't even realize it's happening. But it puts a question mark in people's minds of whether they can actually trust this brand. So that's something that's super important that we're always thinking about when we're designing out the sites as well.
Right. This is also why we always ask at the very, very beginning when we first start kind of planning and strategizing is whether our client's firm has a set of brand guidelines, something that's defined and documented. And often they don't. That's okay. If they don't, we do like to see any other marketing materials that they have. If they have, if they're running any campaigns out there, any marketing campaigns, ad campaigns, things like that, we like to see some of those materials. If they have, like a image or video repository, we like to see those assets. If they have any kind of materials that people are going to see, even down to letterheads, business cards, things like that, or presentation, say slide decks, things like that, it really helps us just to know, if their potential clients, let's say, are out there and they see those other materials as their first touch point with this firm, we want to make sure there's also consistency there so that there's a through line throughout the entire journey for the target audience in question. We want to make sure that, they don't see, let's say, a piece that was published or a print, some sort of print material, a brochure or a newsletter, something like that. Then they come to the website and it's completely different. They literally wonder if they're even at the right place. So we want to make sure there's that consistency throughout all of these different materials. Not to say that we have to stick with the exact same typography or stick with the exact same, layouts and color palettes. It's just about making sure there's that cohesiveness. There always is going to be a different approach in a digital space than, for example, print media, but we still want to make sure we have that consistency. So there has to be a cohesiveness between them. It should feel like it's in the same family. It should have a similar tone, similar feeling. And so we do want to bring those into play too when we're in the initial kind of planning stages.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because the website is just one piece of the overall story. I mean, people are going to be seeing the brand elsewhere. They're going to be engaging with the brand elsewhere on other platforms online, maybe in person, or if they see any maybe billboard advertising or commercials or advertising when they're browsing online, either display ads or something like that. And so, like you said, if it's a disjointed experience where it just looks and it feels completely different from one area to the other, that's just another thing that can start to erode some trust that people might feel around a specific brand. So that consistency is something that's so important. It's something we take into consideration when we're considering the entire digital journey and the entire digital experience, with the website being just one piece of that. Another thing that's super important too on the website is making sure that the language is clear and concise. So within law firms, I've definitely noticed they can get super technical about what they do. So sometimes we just have to rein it in a little bit, rephrase some things so it makes more sense. With law firms that are super specialized, chances are the people coming to the site are going to understand what they're saying, but it's still just a good rule of thumb to write your language in a way that anybody can understand. So that's something where we want to make sure that even when it comes to things like copywriting and picking the exact words and phrases to use in the text content on this site, that we're using things that are clear, that are concise and not too wordy, just because we know people don't like to read every word anyways. Right. People skim and they just pick out the most important things that are kind of prioritized and highlighted on the page. And making sure the messaging is clear, it's concise, it really drives home the point of what you're trying to say is huge with making that user experience better. That's what it's all about.
Right. And recognizing just, we do interact with messaging, with text, with words, the written word in a just very, very different way online than we do off. With things like a homepage, we're going to want to, we're going to want to pare things down even more than anywhere else. People can click through and they are expecting more text. People will engage, for a longer time. The attention's greater on some of those internal pages. But for those sort of headlines and things like that, that is definitely an exercise. We do want to work with our clients to really, really pare things down. And that's just kind of the way it is. And I think it's a great exercise for our clients too, to really distill down their messaging, on those sections of the site where we need to be really impactful and really concise. So headlines, hero areas, or the very top part of a page where, people land there. We have to give them a reason to keep scrolling. We have to give them a reason to keep reading. And while they may read really lengthy white papers or really lengthy even newsletters or even emails. This is a medium where we need to make sure that we have really concise messaging in the same way you do, say, if you're doing a billboard, like you just mentioned. You
Yep.
can't put a paragraph on a billboard. You just can't. So it's
Nope.
really about distilling things down, making sure everything's clear, and reserving the kind of more in-depth and lengthier texts for the right sections of the site, the right pages of the site, where
Yes.
we've already kind of earned the, that lengthier messaging by putting across a concise message elsewhere.
Exactly. There is a time and there is a place for those lengthier messaging, maybe content heavy articles that have a bit more jargon in them.
Right.
And that's because those articles are so specific for like such a unique audience a lot of times, whereas the homepage tends to be a little bit more general. So again, like you were saying, you want to keep it kind of higher level and more
Right.
clear, more concise there. Let's
Right.
talk a minute about responsive design a little bit
Yeah.
because this is something that is huge. Again, not just for law firm sites, but it's something I've noticed over the past decade that I've really been working in the law firm industry and working with our law firm clients. It's come a long way.
Yes.
I know there was at one point we were helping a lot of our law firm clients create that responsive version of their website, which responsive just means that it provides an optimized experience for the visitor of the site, no matter which device they're viewing the site on, whether they are coming to the site on a desktop computer or a laptop computer or a mobile phone or a tablet or even a smart TV. There are just so many different ways people can browse the website and so many different device screen sizes. Even if you think, Apple phones, at one point it was one size and now they have how many different sizes of just the latest iPhone.
Right.
So there's so much to consider and so much to think about when we talk about responsive design. It has come a long way. I remember at one point too, we were working with one of our law firm clients and they just had an atrocious mobile experience where it just wasn't even usable. And when we redesigned their site, reprogrammed everything to be responsive so it is optimized for smaller devices and larger devices, they saw like an 8,000% growth in the traffic that was engaging with them over through mobile devices, which is pretty insane. But it just goes to show how important that it is to have your site so it is able to be accessed on any device that people want to access it on whenever they want to access it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things too. I've had so many conversations with clients. Oftentimes, so we speak about responsive design, meaning the website essentially responds to the user based on the device they're using. So it detects what size of screen the user is viewing the site on and adjusts or responds accordingly to show them a format that is optimized for that size and kind of aspect ratio of screen. So that includes when you flip your phone and you're in portrait versus landscape.
Yep.
That too. A lot of clients come to us saying, their mobile website is no good, or it's people are dropping off because of their mobile website. And there was that period where we were only designing 2 sites, a desktop and a mobile. But like you said, we now have screen sizes that vary so much more than they used to, where not only phones are different sizes, but you can project your or cast your website to literally a massive screen. TV screen, for example. And so we have to create something that really adapts and works in these different scenarios. Even I always tell my clients this, because often people think that, if their users skew one way or the other heavily. So let's say they say they're in an industry where nobody's going to come to this site on a phone. They're going to come on a desktop. So we don't really need to worry about the phone version. and vice versa. The reality is oftentimes people will actually view a site on both. With a law firm, you have to think about the target audiences of a law firm. This is not a short cycle. You don't look at a site for 5 seconds and decide, yes, this is the firm that's going to represent this life-changing case that I'm about to potentially move forward with. They're going to interact with you multiple times in different venues. They might see you on LinkedIn, on social media. They might call you. They might download some materials. They are going to look at this website from different angles. And oftentimes that's going to be on a phone, at home, after work. Somebody within, somebody in that organization or a client, if it's a consumer-facing firm, they're going to go home and take this home with them. This is something that is a real commitment and a real partnership. So they might look on their, say, Edge browser on their PC at work in the office, but then they get home and they pick it back up on their phones or tablets, whatever it may be. And we have to account for and think about that and be cognizant of that we provide a great experience regardless.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of times, again, it depends on exactly who that target audience is. I'll just tease back to the first episode that we did where we dive into that in regards to law firms specifically. But a lot of times people are on the go. Right. And it's easiest for them to pull something up on their phone. Maybe they just need to reach out and talk to their attorney and they don't have their number saved in the phone yet. And they are just looking that up on their phone because they're on the go and, it's kind of urgent and pressing and they just need to reach out and talk to them right now. So having that mobile experience optimized for that specific moment is just so important.
Right. And ever more important every day because the devices keep growing in range of size and our user behavior just keeps changing.
Yes.
And we can't even know what's around the corner in terms of the type of device that we might all be, adopting within the next few years. It just changes so rapidly, hence responsive design over just what used to be mobile design, say 10 years ago, 15 maybe.
Well, I don't want this episode to go too long, but we do have a bit more to talk about. We'll wrap up this part 3 and we'll have to do a part 4, I think, Valerie, where we dive into the big bucket of accessibility on law firm websites, because that's super important. And then we talk a little bit about getting people to the site and different marketing techniques and tactics that we work with law firms to do that, to drive traffic to the site. So definitely check back in for those episodes. If you are interested in reaching out to us at SPINX, you can find us online. You could do a quick Google search. Just type in SPINX Digital, and that's spelled SPINX Digital. Or you can go to our website. It's spinxdigital.com, and you can find us on there.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll chat with you all again soon.
Bye.